How's it going? Serena here from Whole Shift Wellness. I hope everybody's doing fabulous. Since the weather allows, I thought I would answer your questions from the garden. Hope everybody is getting a chance to enjoy the sunshine today. So we got a couple of questions on the post, and then a few more questions came up in our conversations this week. I'm not going to make this super long because I think when it's too long, then it becomes a little bit of a burden to watch. So I'll keep it quite snippy so that it doesn't feel overwhelming to tune in and watch it all or watch the replay. And yeah, I'm gonna dive straight in. So the first question came from Lydia, who on the post asked, how do I know when I've eaten enough? So it's a question around portion size, control and management. And it's a very great question and one that comes up time and time again. So the short answer is that your body tells you when you've eaten enough. So we, with our shifter, work on something that we call mindful eating, which revolves around developing a skill whereby you tune in with your body so that you learn more and more to pick up on the signals the body is constantly sending to you, revolving around hunger and satiety, so that, and this, by the way, takes practice. It's not something that you're going to do and get the first time around. It's going to take doing time and time again. The more you tune in with those signals, however, which to begin with are quite subtle, so it takes quite a lot of attention, the more you will be able to assess when you've eaten enough food. Now, there's a couple of side notes to this. This only works if you're eating the right kind of foods. Unfortunately, there are some foods out there which are not designed to be eaten in moderation. They are actually designed to trigger a certain response, which makes you feel like you could keep eating forever. And you know, we've all had those foods in our lives, and I'm not demonizing them, but it's important to understand why that is and how they work and what they do to us, so that then you can feel empowered and create a routine or develop the skills to be able to manage them. Foods that are highly processed, foods that contain dairy product, foods that contain refined sugars, to name but a few, anything that is anything that contains more than 5 ingredients in general, these are just general benchmark rules. Those foods are generally created in a laboratory with the very purpose of make you want to eat as much of them as possible. You know, some food brands actually have developed entire marketing strategies that actually pretty straightforwardly tell you the more you eat, the better. You know, once you pop, you can't stop, etc., etc. So it is very hard to know when you've eaten, in fact, it's virtually impossible to know when you've eaten enough of those, because most of us anyways, you will get to the point where you have to literally feel sick in your stomach before you realize that you've overeaten them. And this is not because there's anything wrong with you, because it's not that you lack willpower, it's not that you're weak, nothing to do with that. Those foods and drinks, in fact, soda drinks and anything of those caffeinated, like sugary drinks, are designed to make you overconsume them. So you are going to have to create different tactics around not overeating those food. Whereas if you eat real food, if you eat whole foods, if you eat whole grains, if you eat as natural a food as possible, to as close as how it's found in nature as possible, you will be able to learn the skill of attuning with your body so that you know when you've had enough. Like I said, it's a practice. It might take using a skill such as putting your knife and fork down several times throughout the meal, maybe 3 times, and just take a deep breath so that you come back to your body. The breath is the single most effective, quickest way back to your physical body, to the present moment, ever. So whenever you're consciously breathing, whenever you are aware of your breath, you're in your body, you're in the present moment. So that's kind of a top line answer to Lydia's question of how do I know when I've eaten enough? Now, the second question from Jatinder, which kind of links in, is how do I curb a constant hunger throughout the day? Now, there's a couple of things I like to say on that. First of all, you shouldn't be feeling hungry all the time throughout the day. And there's a couple of reasons why that may be. The most obvious one and the most popular one is that you're actually dehydrated. You're not drinking enough water. Sometimes the body mistakes dehydration for hunger. So it's sending a signal that it needs something. It's actually water that it needs, but you think it's food, so you think you're actually hungry throughout the day. So my first tip would be to up your water intake. We should all be drinking at least 2 liters of water a day, minimum. And in fact, I drink a solid liter first thing in the morning in 3 large glasses, those pint glasses. But you don't have to go from 0 to that. You can build yourself up, but you need to really be aware of your hydration levels, and upping those might be the first and quickest solution to this conundrum. If you're feeling constantly hungry, you're either not eating enough or not eating the right foods. And this links back to my answer to Lydia's question, how do I know when I'm full? If you're eating processed foods, if you're eating refined sugars, if you're eating dairy or a lot of dairy, I would recommend no dairy, but those foods trigger certain physiological response that make you feel like you're constantly wanting more. Also, if you eat a lot of processed foods, you might be getting a lot of calories. However, you might not be getting enough nutrients. So here's a very powerful distinction. Calories matter to a point. Of course, you need a minimum amount of calories to live healthily and to go through your basic functions of the day. However, your body doesn't think in terms of calories. Your body thinks in terms of nutrients. You need to acquire a minimum number of nutrients throughout the day in order for your body to feel satiated and satisfied. So, for instance, if you have a McDonald's meal, you might be easily eating, at least 2,500 calories, maybe even 5,000 calories, a lot of calories. However, for sure you're not getting the minimum daily recommended across all the essential macro and micronutrients. Processed food contains calories. Yes, it contains some macros, protein, fat, carbs. Vitamins, minerals, you forget about it. No way. So you're consuming a lot of calories when you consume processed food. You're not getting enough nutrients, so your body's constantly feeling ravenous for what it actually needs. It needs nutrients before it needs calories. So you go through the day going like, shit, I've just eaten 5,000 calories or 2,000 calories, whatever it is. How am I constantly feeling ravenous? And it's because you're not giving the body the essentials it needs to thrive and be healthy. And that is why shifting towards eating more plants is the single most effective way to lose weight, is because you are massively upping the amount of nutrients that you consume, because the foods that contain the highest amount of micronutrients ever are plants, fruits, vegetables, legumes. But you are also radically decreasing the amount of calories that you consume, because those foods are also very, very low calorie dense. So my suggestion to you, Jatinder, is check out how much water you drink throughout the day and up that. And make sure that you're eating plenty of fruits, raw and cooked vegetables, and whole grains, which are the very foods that make you feel full, satisfied, and give you all the nutrients that you need with the least amount of calories. So I hope that helps. Those are the answers to the two questions that we got in the post. Then I got a few more. The next one I got, which is very poignant and comes up all the time in our conversations, is around protein. So how do I know that I'm getting enough protein, and how can I make sure I'm getting enough protein when I switch towards more plant-based eating? And this came from a person who's not fully plant-based, but they want to shift towards eating more plant-based foods for a number of reasons, predominantly health reasons. But they're concerned about protein. And, it's a concern that comes up time and time again, because, we're constantly bombarded with information around protein being the ultimate nutrient, and you need to eat a lot of protein to lose weight, and the protein is the foundation of life itself, etc., etc. So here's what I'm going to say about that. I'm going to keep it quite simple. I could probably talk for an hour just about that, but I don't want to overwhelm you with a lot of information. What I want you to understand is your body doesn't need protein, it needs amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. It doesn't even need all amino acids existing. It needs, I believe it's 14 essential, 17 maybe it is, essential amino acids, which are the ones that your body is not able to produce itself. So you need to get those from food. The reason why protein was thought to be the ultimate nutrient is because it contains a lot, if not all, of those essential amino acids at once. Because animal protein tissue is very similar to our tissue. So scientists thought for a very long time that if you consume as many amino acids all together at once, you are going to be healthier. And they've now discovered that that is absolutely not the case, and it's not necessary to consume perfect protein or protein that contains all essential amino acids at once in order for the body to be at its healthiest. In fact, by consuming animal flesh, because you're getting a lot of waste in, and that's why people who are on high protein diets have to drink a lot of water, because it's diets that are very heavy on your kidneys, because the body has to produce a lot of waste in order to just extrapolate the essential stuff it needs. You're essentially getting a whole bunch more than what you need and overloading the system. So I'm going to use this metaphor that I have developed, which really helps drive this concept home with our shifters. Imagine you were an antique car dealer, and so your passion was around restoring antique cars, right? But you're working out of your garage. So you're working out of your garage, you get an antique car in your garage, and you just need a couple of spare parts to fix it up. What would happen to your garage is if every time you needed a spare part, like a spare steering wheel or a spare shift gear, instead of just going out to get the steering wheel, to get the shift gear, you went out and got an entire new antique car, as similar as possible to your existing car, in order to just extrapolate a steering wheel and a shift gear. What would happen to your garage if that's how you went about it? it would get cramped. You wouldn't be able to even walk around it anymore. You would have so much waste every time you go out to get a whole new car just to extrapolate a steering wheel and a shift gear. It's not the smart way around. The same thing happens to the body. You need perhaps a bunch of those essential amino acids because the body stores them and reuses them. Instead, every time you go out and get a whole new other freaking car, and then the body has to go through the process of dismantling this whole new car, getting out what it needs and getting rid of what it doesn't need. Time and time and time and time again. So much waste. It gets clogged up. Literally like your garage would get clogged up. Plants contain protein. The only way that you could ever run the risk of not getting enough protein in your diet, or not getting enough amino acids in your diet, to be specific, is number one, if you weren't eating enough. So if you weren't getting enough calories in, if you weren't consuming as much food as you need to survive throughout the day and to perform your basic functions, then you would be at risk of deficiency. But you wouldn't only be deficient in calories, you would be in protein, you'd be deficient in a bunch of other stuff because you're not getting enough food in. Number one. Number two, you are only consuming highly processed foods. And we go back to the same thing that I was telling you before. Processed food doesn't contain enough nutrients, including protein, so you would be at risk. Other than that, even if you only eat, and some people do, I don't, I couldn't, even if you only eat fruit and you consume your whatever your need amount of calories is in a day, 2,500, 3,000, out of just raw fruit, you would get enough protein. This is science, by the way, it's not me talking shit, excuse my language. So don't worry about protein. In fact, don't worry about individual nutrients. The moment we get so bogged down and focused on an individual nutrient, we lose perspective on a whole food. An apple is good for you, a pear is good for you, an orange is good for you. And we know some of the reasons why those items are good for us. Green leafy vegetables are good for us. Brown rice is good for us. Legumes are good for us. There's no doubt that they are. We know some of the reasons. We don't even know all the reasons. We continuously find out new things about nutrition. So the essence of this message is take a step back, look at the bigger picture, look at food as a whole. Is this a healthy food? Not like, does it have enough protein? Does it have enough carbs? Does it have enough, fats? Is this a healthy food? Is this a non-conducive, unhealthy food? So that's a long-winded answer to the protein question. I think that's all we have time for, because I want to keep this Q&As quite succinct. Now, I want to finish on one note, and I don't like to get political, and I try and keep my conversations as neutral as possible. But this is an issue that's really compelling because it's really urgent. You might have noticed, I hope you have noticed, that the rainforest is on fire. It is the lung of the planet. We can't live without oxygen. Nothing would happen without oxygen. If we had to pay for oxygen, there wouldn't be enough money in the world to pay for it. That's how much valuable it is. The number one cause for deforestation of the rainforest is cattle grazing. Number one cause. Before paper, before all the other reasons that the media like to talk about, the reason why they set it on fire, and they deliberately set it on fire, by the way. These fires were man-made, they just got out of control. But it's constantly set on fire so that they can clear space to graze cattle. These, again, facts of science. Go online, look at Leonardo DiCaprio's posts, look at CNN, just posted a very extensive report on this matter. Now it's impossible to ignore it. Some of us have known it for a very long time. Now it's mainstream media. So, and I don't even want to advocate you don't eat meat, although there is no reason to eat red meat other than taste. You don't need it. Nobody needs it. However, if you do want to continue eating it, make sure you only consume the kind that doesn't cause the level of disruption that these fires are going to cause. You know, the planet is at risk. We're not talking just like trivial stuff. Now we're talking about the survival of the species. And so if you gotta get it from, you know, a food provider that you know doesn't source it from those places, which probably means you should never order it in a restaurant unless you know the owner and he can guarantee you that that's not where they get it from. Like I said, this is not a political statement. I don't preach going vegan. I don't think anybody should go vegan. I think everybody would benefit from doing so, and most definitely everybody would benefit from eating more plants. But I think certain issues are urgent matters and have to do with the welfare of humanity as a whole, and this is one of them. So just be conscious. And if you need any help and support, I'm always available to answer any questions. If anything is pressing and if I can help in any way for you to make the shift, I'm here for you. I hope you found this useful. Let me know what you think. Thumbs up or send me a message. Sorry I didn't get to answer a couple more messages that I'd received, but like I said, I did say I was going to go first come, first serve. And I want to keep them quite short so that they're not incredibly long videos. Anyways, have a fabulous one. Ciao for now.